Tell me why I don't like Mondays. Tell me why I don't like Mondays.
So tell me why I don't like Mondays. Well, love them or hate them, they're the start of the week, and that's a great time to think about new ideas. So welcome to this, a new series called The Perioperative Coach. In this series, we have top tips on all aspects of perioperative care from some of the world's experts working together to enhance surgical recovery. Don't forget to look on the show notes on topmedtalk.com for additional links to papers, etc. And of course, if you haven't done it already, subscribe to Top Med Talk. Top Med Talk. We're going to talk about the outcomes paper and fluid management. So yesterday I asked Dr. Thacker what she tells her patients, which are Dr. Miller's patients as well, what to expect from their enhanced recovery experience. So we're just going to play a quick clip from that now.
So when you talk to a patient who has no idea what that is, you know, I'm very intimate with that literature, but you talk to a patient who doesn't have a clue what to expect. Oh, you're going to cut into me. Okay, what are you going to do? And you tell them you'll be in the hospital from 3 to 10 days, they're quite happy with the trajectory of leaving in 5 or 6 days.
Yeah.
Where if you tell them you'll have to stay in the hospital overnight, it's just one night, you just have to stay in the hospital overnight. And then the next morning, you and I will discuss what we're doing for you in the hospital and when we can stop doing that and you'll be ready to go home. You have 83-year-old women sitting on the side of their bed dressed at 6 a.m. rounds. Because they want to go home. They want to get back. They want to walk their dog and sleep in their own bed and have their own snacks. And so I have found that patients are very motivated for this to go much more quickly than most providers are even comfortable at this point, if given the choice.
So there we have it. 83-year-old woman dressed the day after surgery, ready to go home, chomping at the bit. So if we're going to talk about outcomes, I think some of the things I heard there were length of stay, the fact that the patient's drinking, eating, mobilising, we hope they've had a sleep, patient satisfaction, and it was very much about the fact that it's because they want to go home, so choice. So Mike, and supported by Tim, if you can take us through some of the headlines from the outcomes paper that was published and why that was thought to be an important as the first 4 consensus statements.
So I think that the key element of the outcome paper offers is a framework for how we might collect data in patients undergoing enhanced recovery, and it also makes a strong case that really data collection is fundamental to quality improvement. If you know, it's a well-used quote, but if you can't measure it, it's very hard to know how you're going to improve it. And we offered a 3-tiered approach, depending on resource availability and engagement. But a core data set that ought to be possible to collect in almost any institution. So some basic demographics, age, ASA grade, gender, that kind of thing, whether or not the patient's on an enhanced recovery program. So no more detail than that. And then the sort of outcomes that would be readily available from any hospital administration system. So length of stay, mortality in hospital, and readmission to the same hospital. And then if you wanted to go further than that, there's a quality improvement data set, which encompasses a little bit more detail on the demographics. Importantly, adherence to the different elements of enhanced recovery, so you can start to get some granularity on how well you're performing in terms of delivering an enhanced recovery package. And then a slightly more detailed outcome set, critically including this idea of DREAM, so the drinking, eating, mobilising outcome. So how rapidly patients are getting to that within your hospital. And then we also offer a more comprehensive data set with risk adjustment, adherence to ER elements, and then some more detailed outcomes, including patient-reported outcomes. But that feels to me like it offers a good framework for almost anybody, depending on level of engagement and resource availability.
So if I could jump in, Mike. So I think what I'm hearing, there's a key metric. If you ask anybody what are your outcomes in your institution, they should have immediately available their mean, their average length of stay, and their readmission rates. So, because I notice there's a tendency for people to say, I'm sure everyone's out of hospital in our institution in 4 days or whatever it is. But we need to have the truth, and the mean, not the median. So the average that includes the outliers. Is that a fair comment?
No, that's absolutely right. I mean, we all are aware of the... Everybody's sure that their length of stay is short and their mortality is zero and there are no complications. It's only when you start to measure these things that you're really able to reflect on how well you're actually doing in terms of delivery of care and enhanced recovery in particular.
So Tim,
Monty,
go on, Tim.
Sorry, do you think the mean and the median are important? Like, I think particularly hospitals that have smaller numbers, obviously we want the mean, but I also encourage the median, because one outlier can significantly skew the data if you have smallish numbers. So I think it's quite nice for hospitals to collect the mean and the median.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. Mean, median and range, I think, is the most useful, because that gives you... I mean, the mean represents your bill, if you see what I mean, what the overall, including the complications. The median deals with that how good can we do question, and then the range lets you have an eyeball as if there's one extreme outlier that's wrecking it, which is going to happen to all of us. So what's happened to your... Since, I mean, you're pioneers of enhanced recovery in the USA in the latest wave of it, Tim. I think it's fair to say that 2 decades ago there were other small numbers of units that started this as a very early wage. But of the latest enhanced recovery wave, you've been pioneers. What's happened to your length of stays in colorectal, for example, with Dr. Thacker since you started?
So, I mean, it's continued to drop, and I think that's an important point whenever I present our data. I think a lot of people are familiar with our paper. When we implemented enhanced recovery, our length of stay dropped by approximately 2 days. At the time, it was from 8 days down to 6 days. But we've had continual improvement over the last 6 years, so that now our mean length of stay is around 3.5 days. So enhanced recovery is not an implementation and then we've done it and there's no further improvement to make. It's a continual improvement process, and I think that is a very important message, and we're of course continuing to make improvements and refinements to all our pathways and will do as the years continue.
So was that, Tim, the continued improvement you've had, is that an increase in adherence to enhanced recovery, or is it that you've added elements and new things to that pathway that has improved? What's been the difference, do you think, to continue that improvement?
I think it's a lot of things. I think it's some continued improvement. I think it's some providers, once you get used to enhanced recovery, your comfort level for getting patients up and about, drinking, eating, mobilising, discharging early increases.
Yeah.
So I do think there's an element of that as well. And I think we're just getting better at what we do, as Julie mentioned.
Process now.
Yeah, as Julie mentioned yesterday, the messaging has changed. That trying to empower the patients, and we do see those patients who are up early, very motivated, drinking, eating, mobilising the day after surgery, and if they're doing that now, we will send them home, whereas perhaps we wouldn't have done 3 or 4 years ago.
So Tim, what are your sorry guys, Tim, what are your dream rates? What are you hitting now for drink, eat, mobilise, which a lot of people don't have at their fingertips, but I think you guys do. You sort of 80-90% now?
It is, absolutely. And I think that's where it should be. I don't think you're ever going to get 100%. I mean, we have a...
at what stage is that? Are the patients hitting that dream?
So it's drinking on the day of surgery and eating and mobilising on post-op day 1.
Wow, that's amazing.
Brilliant. Sorry, Mike, I think I cut you off. Did you have something there?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say this notion that it's not a fire and forget thing with enhanced recovery. And our experience in the United Kingdom, where we had this national implementation which you were involved in leading, and then in a number of hospitals the enhanced recovery coordinators, because it was supposedly all working, were moved back to their original jobs, and we started to see a increase in length of stay. I think it's a continuous process, and the data's important in continuing to drive that.
And I think this measurement paper is going to be very important, because I think there is a lot of confusion about what to measure when you implement enhanced recovery. And I think the most important thing is going to be the simple measurements, measuring dreams, because a lot of people have a tendency to make things overcomplicated and to think that if we're going to implement, we have to measure everything. They try and measure everything and then they fail. And I think that the message that simplicity is key and that you can just have some key outcome measures of success, I think is going to be a very important message from this paper.
Top Med Talk.
Thanks for downloading and listening to Top Med Talk. Don't forget to find us on social media. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, even got our own YouTube channel. Whichever your favourite social media feed is, we're bound to be there. Find us. Also, subscribe to this podcast so that you never miss an episode. And make sure you go to the Top Med Talk website, topmedtalk.com, and get on board with the email updates. Oh, whilst you're at it as well, I suggest you download our entire back catalogue. We're categorising at the moment. We're having a little look through it. It may not always be in the form that you currently find it. So if you get your hard drive ready for a full-on download via the website perhaps, or perhaps through your podcatcher. Oh, and if you fancy meeting us, why not go to the website ebpom.org/meetings. Our next big event is EBPOM USA, the Dallas Masters Course, a perioperative care practicum. Have a look for details of that and some of the other meetings coming up across the next year. ebpom.org/meetings.